What's up, guys? Welcome back to Track the Harmonic. I'm your host, Lord MC, and in today's episode, we'll be covering what happened today in the market, as well as analyzing the charts with respect to harmonic trading strategy and what we can expect for the rest of the week. Additionally, we'll be discussing what we can expect for the upcoming report tomorrow, which is GDP. You have jobless claims, as well as you have two Fed speakers that talk tomorrow. So that, and we also have PCE report on Friday. So I'm going to briefly explain what the GDP is. So the GDP basically is just an economic indicator that measures the total value of goods and services produced within the country during a given period. So we definitely want the GDP to be coming down, right? Otherwise, we're going to have a problem there. The market's not going to like that if GDP continues to rise, which could just mean that inflation is still increasing. So that's going to be a very important data that comes out tomorrow before the bell, as well as on Friday. PCE. So for those of you guys who don't know what PCE is, it's just the personal consumption expenditures, which measures the amount of money spent by individuals and households on goods and services. So the Fed has been saying that they want us to spend a little bit less because inflation prices are pretty high right now. So what we want out of that report is for the PCE to come down. Not only do we want it to come down year over year, which should be coming down year over year, if in my opinion, because the Fed has been taking measures to fight inflation. So the PCE does have to come down year over year, but most importantly as well, the month over month, in my opinion, also needs to come down, because you don't want that on a month to month basis to keep rising. It just indicates that that inflation is continuing to rise. So we definitely want those to be going down together. So we will see what that comes out on Friday. So before I get into the charts, I want to preface by saying I am not a financial advisor, and one of the things I say in my videos is never financial advice. So question everything, do your own research, and come out with your own conclusions. So having said that, let's jump right into the SPY. So SPY, overall, the market had a pretty interesting day, good day at that. So SPY did go as high as 401.60, the low being 398.68 before closing the day at 401.35. So it was up 1.45% for the day. You close harmonically here at target 1, you closed above the 200 EMA. So this is, in my opinion, bullish for the stock market right now, specifically for the SPY. So you do have volume increasing today. You surpassed the previous 2-day closes. So this looks good. This looks like continuation for the SPY, but we will have to see what the data says, because the data can say otherwise and we can come back down. So what can we expect here moving forward? If I bring out my levels here, I know there's a lot, but bear with me, a bunch of lines. But at this level, I'm looking at to see 404. If SPY can reclaim 404, it'd be very bullish. I mean, maybe you can see continuation to fill that gap at 408. Should it not continue, you may come down tomorrow to test the 50 EMA back here at 400, target 1 at 399. You fail this and you fail the 200 EMA specifically, you have that gap all the way down to 396. So pretty much this week you've had the market try to battle here and stay above 393 and 390s respectively, right? So the past couple of days we've been respecting and bouncing off of 393.84 and continuing pushing. So SPY needs to continue. If it wants to continue pushing, we definitely want to see an increase in volume. So the HSI and the amp RSI looks like it is ramping up here. So we will try to see if this is going to be more continuation tomorrow or not. And I do think the data that comes out in the next 2 days is going to be a key factor to see if the market continues to push. If it does, you can see SPY, like I said, clear those levels up to 408. And then in the most bullish case scenario, if we look over here to the 4-hour harmonic here, let me just clear these drawings here. If you cross 401 here, 32, the next target would be harmonically within this 4-hour. Target 2 would be 414.44, which, if I go back here, this trend line is from the 2009 lows. So if you come back here, you could tell here in the previous times we've hit these levels, we kind of never been above it. We got above it, failed to break out, and continue pushing down. Over here, we also broke above it, tried to stay above, but we got rejected and continued pushing down. So if SPY continues, this key level is going to be very important. Should you cross that down the line, if GDP PCE is bullish, you could potentially see that gap below 421 on the SPY. Jumping over to, really quick, I wanted to share the weekly here. The weekly looks good. It looks like you're setting up with 3 white soldiers here. Volume past week is decreasing, but I do think this volume is going to pick up once we have the data come out. So harmonically speaking, here on the weekly for SPY, you have target 1 at 404. You are above the 50 EMA here. You got that above today. So to continue pushing, this is obviously on the weekly, it's going to take a little bit of time. Target 2 would be 433.02. Should you fail here, you would come down here to 396, and then possibly a 200 EMA at 373. And you still have XA at 357, and then hop at 324. But it's too early to tell. The MACD did switch green here. It's possibly, still in my opinion, hasn't broken the downtrend here, but it's very close. So we'll keep an eye on the on the SPY here. Jumping over to the triple Qs. Going to the 1 day here. So the triple Qs finished 1.82% for the day, went as high as 313.35, the low being 310.05 before closing the day at 312.72. You do have volume picking up here for the triple Qs. You surpassed yesterday's and Monday's volume, and you almost hit 313.84 at XA off of this bearish harmonic bat pattern. So one thing that's interesting from the triple Qs here is that you did have the golden cross on the EMAs. So this looks good for more continuation. What can we expect if you break above 313.84? You have hop here at 330.99. The HSI did cross a midline here. The AMP RSI is looking like it wants to come up here, which would, in my opinion, be above 313, 314. So this looks good still. Continuation for the triple Qs. After 313, I do have a previous harmonic level at 318.72, where I do think there should be some resistance there before you continue to 331. I wanted to come here and share the weekly real quick. So the weekly does look good. Here also same kind of situation with SPY here, decrease in volume, but I do think the volume will step up tomorrow and Friday. So what are the bearish numbers here? Should it fail to get above 313.84, you can come back down to 305.69. You fail 305.69, then you have support here at the 200 at 297, and then target 1 at 391 to complete that type 1 reaction, right? Because it has yet to do this type 1 reaction. Right now it's kind of figuring out what it wants to do. And I do think the data will let us know where it's going. So jumping over to the Dow Jones. So the Dow Jones here finished 1% for the day, went as high as 327.17, the low being 325.29 before closing the day at 327.08. So right here, something's interesting here. You do have a death cross on the EMAs that did cross over, I think, yesterday. So ultimately, it looks like it's bearish, but right now, this could be a lagging indicator, and the Dow Jones could look to test the 200 EMA and break up to target 1 at 332.44. It is on. It did match. The volume's kind of decreasing and matched yesterday's close, but we'll see what the Dow Jones has to. If it has any more movement to the upside, I think it will have resistance here at 328, and then maybe if you get above that, you can see 332, and then target 2 at 344. Should you fail the 200 EMA, you can come down to the 21 here at 327. Last level of support would be 323 before you come down to 320, possibly 318, and then hop at 312. So keep an eye on the Dow Jones. Wanted to quickly share something very bullish on the VIX here. So the VIX here is at 1911. So for those of you guys don't know, anything below 20, specifically below 19, if you enter below 19, let's say 18, you are in what's considered a bull market. So right now we're very close to dropping below $19 here. You do have a gap. You gap down here, so that there is a gap here between 1955 and 1984. It's very hard to chart the VIX, but over here, if you looked at this bearish crab pattern, you did a type 1 reaction up to target 2 at 23.31. So how much more does it have if it goes to the downside? We could take the retracement tool here from X to D. The next level would be 1863, and then you have 1706 at point A here. So we'll see if this gets up to 1863 and then 1706, that'd be very bullish for the market, and you can see continuation, possibly to some blue chips to even test their all-time highs again, which is insane to say in this current environment. But we will have to see what the data again says. Jumping over to Apple. Let me clear my drawings here. So Apple, very bullish day on Apple, almost 2% up for the day, went as high as 161.05, low being 159.35 before closing the day at 160.77 with volume increasing. So what can we expect here for Apple? You do have the EMAs and the Golden Cross and the SMAs also crossed over back here on Thursday, so it looks like it's continuation for Apple here. Very strong right now. So if I'm jump over to the weekly here, the weekly, you do have target 2 at 160.49, which you did close above. So volume is still coming in. It looks still good here. You had the 2050 crossover on the EMAs. So what target would be on the weekly if we continue pushing? I'd look at 170.36. Next target for this would be on the weekly, right? So if we want a closer number, we can take the, let's see what the bullish bat pattern has here. The next level 166.25 and then that 170. So if it continues, you can see the 786 off of the bat pattern here at 166.25. Should you fail pushing on up above target 2 here, you can come back down to 158 and then 156.74. So Apple yesterday did here bounce off of 155.86. It's very bullish to have Apple here be above 156.74. It's held now 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 days above 156.74. So that's now a strong level of support here, that 155.86. So Apple does look bullish, but we will see what the data again says. So jumping over to Microsoft. Microsoft also looks good here. It just closed above XA at 276.90. It went up almost 2% for the day, went as high as 281.14 and closing the day just at 280.51. So there is a gap fill here at 285. So that's where I'd be looking to see if Microsoft continues to push up there with volume, because you did get volume coming in today. The HSI here looks like it wants to approach that midline. But next target, if you fill this gap, you could see Microsoft here go to 297 at hop, potentially 300. So Microsoft does look good. If we jump to the weekly, see what it says. The volume has been decreasing, but we'll see how much more volume it gets here. The weekly also has hop at 297.89. So Microsoft, in my opinion, still looks really bullish in the chart. So jumping over to Tesla here. So Tesla went as high as 2.48% for the day, went as high as 195.29, low being 189.44 before closing the day at 193.88. So it's been respecting here the 21 EMA. You have volume increasing now. So what can we expect here for Tesla? So the next level of resistance would be the 200 EMA at 208. Should you close above 208, you can continue pushing to that 223. If we jump over here to the weekly, give us better numbers here. You are above 171. Target 1 off the weekly would be 221.26. Should you fail, you can come back down to that 180, 176, and then 165 would be a critical level here for Tesla should it break that. So we will see how Tesla reacts to the next couple of days. Jumping over to Amazon. So Amazon on the daily went as high as 3.1%, went as high as $100.42, low being 98 before closing the day at $100.25. So what can we expect here? Next level would be XA here at 107.54 where the 200 SMA is, should it continue. Otherwise, you can come back down to test that $96 and then all the way down to 88. So Amazon is trying to get above 107, but this level here, it's very, very strong level of resistance here around this $100 mark. So jumping to the weekly chart, the weekly has target 1 at 122. You may attempt to get to the 50 EMA here off of bullish data at 109 here. So too early to tell where Amazon wants to go. It does have a strong resistance here, as you could tell. The past couple of times it's been failing here and it comes down. But as long as it's closing above 100, it looks like it wants to retain that. So we will see how that goes. Jumping over to Google. So Google here played out my harmonic pattern here. So now it looks like it's doing an actual a type 1 reaction. If I bring my drawings here, no, it's not there anymore, but tracement tool here. So the 382 would be at 99.71, which actually hit pretty close to it, 3 cents off, right? So 99.71 was target 1 at the 382. Let me just make this a little bit more perfect. Should it continue down to the 618 would be target 2 at 95.51. But right now it did have a did have a little bit of a sell-off the last couple of days here, so it's been having a hard time staying above 103.50. So it did lose a 200 EMA. It's still holding support above the 200 SMA. So definitely want maybe to bounce off the 13 EMA and continue breaking up above 103.50 to continue pushing up to target 2 at 110. On the weekly, let me remove these drawings here. On the weekly, you do have this bullish harmonic crab pattern where you looks like you're coming back down maybe to test 98, you find support and then continue to target 1 at 109 and then at 125. So Google did have a little bit of a sell-off here after a very bullish what is it, past a week and a half. So you do have an HSI dot triggered now, so we'll definitely see if more volume starts to step up here to the sell side for Google. Jumping over to Meta. So Meta did go as high as 205.72, the low being 202.54 before closing the day at 205.35. It was up 2.33% for the day. So Meta looks like here it wants to continue pushing. Everything looks to me good on the volume. It's having a little bit of resistance here, staying above 205, 206. But if you break that, you can continue going to the weekly here. Next level of support is the 200 EMA at 210. You break 210, then 232, and then 251. So Meta could really take off here. So I'm going to be keeping an eye on Meta, because if the market decides to have good data here, target 1 could be a possibility, but too early to tell. We'll find out on Thursday and Friday. Jumping over to NVIDIA. So NVIDIA was up 2.17% for the day. It went as high as 270.78, low being 265.97 before closing the day at 269.84. So NVIDIA does have a bearish steep crab here on the daily, and it's for the most part staying above the 90 EMA. The next level of resistance would be 281.58. Should it fail that, you can come back down to test the 90 EMA at 262, and then terminal at 255, XA at 245 before doing the type 1 reaction down to 204. But right now you do have volumes picking up here for NVIDIA. NVIDIA still looks like it's somebody's holding up here. And if you could tell here, maybe this falling wedge is a breakout now. It's a little bit kind of hard to tell here, but it looks like it did break out of here, right? You did gap up. I'll just magnet here. Excuse me. Right, this could be a falling wedge. You break out, you actually gapped up here. So tomorrow would be the retest of this breakout, see if that happens. But if you break above here to 281, you could see possibly NVIDIA up to those $300 level there. But let me go over here to the weekly real quick. So as you could tell, the weekly, whoever bought NVIDIA here at the end of December with commons or anything, you'd be up 100%. So this is an insane move that NVIDIA has gone through just in this past year alone. So hop here on the weekly is at 281.58, and it still looks like it's continuing to that before it comes down to that type 1 reaction. But we will see what the data says. And what else did I want to cover? Did I cover Google, Tesla? Okay. Next one I wanted to cover, just something that I found interesting, something to look at here, is McDonald's. McDonald's here is approaching almost all-time highs. I do have a level here at 277.14, which if McDonald's decides to break out of this, the next level of resistance would be 281, where the new all-time highs was 282, whatever this is, 281.67. Should you break that, the next level of resistance here harmonically off of this bullish deep crab would be the 1618 at 291.08. So it's very important to see if McDonald's is going to decide to break out of that. What looks like I guess a pennant, maybe a falling wedge, I don't know, you could argue whatever the case, but it looks like it did break out of that. What was it here, right? So you broke out of that, and now you retested, and then you have more volume picking up here. So this looks very bullish for McDonald's here to hit new all-time highs. So the midline here on the HSI for the weekly did cross the midline here, so the amp RSI is almost at that red here at that 70, but you can continue pushing. There is no harmonic with that, but it is a breakout here for the weekly on McDonald's, and be very bullish for McDonald's to see if it breaks above 281 here for new all-time highs, and see where the market dictates price to hit resistance at. Otherwise, you could jump, if it doesn't break 278.14, you can come back down to 272, then 267, and then the 200 EMA here at 261. So keep an eye out on McDonald's, but I think that's all I wanted to share. If you like this type of content, please consider giving me a like and subscribing to the channel. It does help me out. Hopefully you guys have a good day tomorrow and you wreck the markets, and I will see you guys on Friday. Take care, everybody, and peace.